This is Female Economics, Why Women Buy, episode number 5 with Lisa Baird, Chief Marketing Officer of the United States Olympic Committee. Welcome to Female Economics, Why Women Buy. I'm your host, Daryl Mobley, and this feature is brought to you by JanetTV.com. JanetTV.com is an online channel that provides 24 hours a day coverage of athletic and active females and their sporting interests, sporting events, original programming, scores, and news delivered to viewers via computers, laptops, cell phones, tablets, gaming consoles, and connected TVs. Women are more powerful consumers than ever before. They control $3.3 trillion in consumer spending, are responsible for 80% of household buying, and control 50% of the wealth in the U.S. Despite this, many marketers fail to fully recognize and reach this tremendous audience. Quite honestly, connecting with females of any age is becoming increasingly challenging as women are engaging in an increasingly complex mix of activities involving work, family, friends, and the self. To help companies connect their products and services with this enormously valuable audience, Female Economics, Why Women Buy, brings you thought leaders to share their powerful insights regarding the best methods for reaching and persuading women. Each week, join me for powerful messages and interviews that will leave you inspired and ready to better meet the needs of an audience that is just too big to miss out on. I should warn you, the Female Economics Why Women Buy podcast is fast-paced and very direct. I ask pointed questions, and you always get the answers. Lisa P. Baird is Chief Marketing Officer of the United States Olympic Committee. In this role, Lisa directs sales and marketing and oversees development of innovative corporate sponsorship and licensing programs for the USOC's family of corporate partners, while leveraging the attributes of the U.S. Olympic team brand. Lisa joined the USOC from Brand Value Advisors, a consultancy advising private equity, merger and acquisition, and venture capital clients. From 2005 to 2007, Lisa served as Vice President, Marketing and Consumer Products for the National Football League, where she directed the league's consumer products, direct marketing, e-commerce, entertainment marketing, and advertising programs. She oversaw a portfolio of more than 150 licensees that delivered $3 billion in retail sales. Lisa developed the league's first consumer-generated ads for the 2006 Super Bowl, launched the league's first youth and Hispanic websites, and helped develop NFLShop.com into one of the premier e-commerce sites in sports. She also launched the first virtual sports world for kids, NFLRushZone.com. From 1999 to 2005, Lisa worked at IBM, first as Vice President Advertising and then as Senior Vice President Worldwide Marketing Communications. Prior to that, she worked in positions with leading companies including General Motors, Bristol-Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, and Procter & Gamble. Lisa is a graduate of Penn State University with both a Bachelor of Arts and Master's of Business Administration degree. You just might be fascinated by Lisa's insights. Let's get started with Lisa right now. Welcome, friends. I am delighted to have on the line with me today Lisa Baird. Lisa, welcome to Female Economics, Why Women Buy. How are you doing?
Great. Absolutely great. Coming off of a great 2014 Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games and feeling, just really proud of our team.
Really proud. Now, you know what's great about it? The fact that you're coming off of it is going to make people like me, and we're going to get into that today, ask you questions about the time in between all these games. So just be prepared for those questions. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's where I'd like to start. Tell me, I assume that it is, but why is marketing to women important to the U.S. Olympic Committee?
Well, you know what? More than half of our fans are women. The Olympic and Paralympic sports cover such a range and diversity of sports, both competitive tournament play, individual team, and also not only win-lose sports, but artistic and subjective. And so it's no surprise that we have one of the broadest, biggest fan bases in the world. Most, I know the U.S. market much more than I know other countries, but our appeal is so broad. But more than half of our fans are women, and that's why we market to them.
That is very so. Now you have a great experience and NFL and IBM and all sorts of things, and your perspective is really interesting. That more than half your fans are women. I'm not sure I would have thought that or known that. Is it that it's sport, or is it that it's the Olympics? What is it you think that draws women like that?
Well, it's the unique combination, and the first is, look, there's no doubt about it. It's incredible sport. Whether it's, track and field, wrestling, some of the classic Olympic sports, equestrian, sailing, or some of the newer sports where the Americans, we really excelled in Vancouver in some of the newer sports like slopestyle. We seem to crave sports as a culture like no other. What is amazing about the Olympics is how broadly diverse they are and how linked in they are with not only culture but with grassroots in the United States. I mean, who doesn't have a kid who plays soccer? Who doesn't have a kid who played basketball? And the more you look at Olympic sports, whether they're participant-based or, just ones with classic heritage, you find people, there's this enormous, fan followership to them. They just encompass not only women and men, they encompass participants, they encompass teens, more mature Americans. We have a very strong fan base of TV followers, and frankly, they love to follow the U.S. team because of national pride.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. I know I actually always feel, you're right, I do feel that sense of national pride whenever someone I don't know them, but they wear the colors, right? And I said, oh.
Yep.
That's an American. She won. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. How is your marketing? Because I know you run, as I set up front when I told people about you, you run sales and marketing. How is marketing of the U.S. Olympic Committee, how is it different from, I guess, attracting women versus men?
Well, you know what? One of the things, first of all, I think one of the biggest advantage that we have as a sport is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in London, our female athletes outnumbered our male athletes. So not only do we, people love the sport, but obviously, there's an appeal and attraction because, some of our most famous athletes are women, and they have tremendous appeal to women viewers. We're really not like, say, the NFL, which is trying to attract women fans to what is a man's game. We have a very inclusive athlete participation. But I think what we do to market differently to women is they're much more involved in the stories of our athletes and wanting to know behind the scenes and how they got there, and whether that's a great story of an athlete who's overcome incredible obstacles and odds, or an athlete who is achieving something, who almost has greatness thrust upon them. I think women do respond a bit more viscerally to those stories, and that is very, very much a part of how we market the games, is through storytelling.
Okay. Wow, fantastic. I know I find out more about gymnasts and slope style. I feel like I know them, or they're from this town, and oh my God, they travel to Iowa to learn how. I get more into them than I do. Frankly, I know more about kind of relatively small sport Olympic athletes than I do about, say, an NBA star who's in the news all the time. That's really what they're about, where they're from, and what happened in their life. So it's very interesting. That's part of what you do. Okay, what big thing? I know you have been incredibly successful at attracting a lot of new clients to support the U.S. Olympic movement with their sponsorship and things like that. So you've seen it up and down and good and bad. What big thing do clients most often fail to do right when they work with you all to reach sports?
Well, the one thing we talk about a lot is how do you take our platform and make it uniquely work for your brand, your business, your kind of objectives. And we really work hard and long to create that right integrated fit. I'll give you a great recent one from the 2014 Winter Games, one that we're really enormously proud of, is our partnership with BMW. BMW came on in front of the London Games. Not only did they sign with us, the U.S. Olympic Committee, but they signed 4 of our NGBs. And in London, they focused some of their marketing on, a lot of our marketing on us, but then they went deep with swimming and with track and field because they wanted to tell the story of speed, and they did a really great job. But where it really came to life and became something unique is when they took what essentially they were about. They worked very closely with the bobsled team to help redesign the two-man bobsled that the men and women raced in Vancouver. And I don't know if you know, we did very, very well.
Yeah.
And I will always say this first, because of tremendously talented athletes who work hard, practiced enormously, and really competed their hearts out and won many medals, more than we'd ever run before. But they were helped by a huge automotive company and technology company that was investing in the sled, and BMW got a great story to tell. I think I even heard NBC talk about it as the ultimate sledding machine. That's the kind of power that all companies have to go for. And while it's great to use Olympians and Paralympians in advertising, it's even better when you can find a unique value proposition built around the Olympics and your company's product or service.
Wow. And just for all who listen, you said NGBs, you mean National Governing Body of Sport.
National Governing Bodies like USA Swimming, USA Bobsled, etc. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Now, you just told me about BMW, and it sounds good to get the ultimate sledding machine. That's fantastic. You can't pay for that, quite honestly. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, when an NBC tells us, and they're there on the ultimate sledding machine, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty good. So beyond BMW, who clearly did it and are doing it right, are there others who are doing it particularly right? You saw particular growth in whatever is important to them in their participation, from their participation.
Well, I think one that has captured the world's attention, not only the U.S.'s attention, but the world's attention, has been what P&G has done with their Moms campaign, the Thank You Mom campaign. And it started in front of Vancouver. We had signed Procter & Gamble. And for the record, I think I'm supposed to disclose that Daryl Mobley and I were brand assistants or brand managers at Procter & Gamble together back in the day. So when we brought on P&G, I saw what the brands were starting to do, and it was really good work. They were talking about why the paper towels work and how beauty care worked, et cetera. It was all good, right? But I said, look, I just knew that there was a bigger opportunity they were going to miss unless they created a bigger idea. So I asked for an audience with Mark Pritchard, who's the CMO. And I sat down with him. It was my very first meeting with him. And I said, he said, well, how are things going? And I said, well, I think he was expecting me to say, yeah, no, things are going great. This is your best investment ever. I said, listen, Mark, I think you're going to be really disappointed in us. And he's like, huh? And he said, I just don't think you have figured out the big idea that goes across everything P&G does. I mean, your mission is to improve people's lives. That's your mission, your stated mission. And how can you use our platform to reflect that mission? And he kind of sat back and he listened. He goes, you know what? I think you're right. I'll get back to you. And Mark and his team, and I think it was Wyden Kennedy, created a great positioning and the first corporate advertising. And, the insight, as Mark says it very, very well, is, P&G isn't about sports, but boy, they sure enough know more about moms than anybody else on the planet. And that became the Thank You Mom campaign, which I think everybody has fallen in love with.
Yes, very touching, and certainly kudos to them for doing it, and for you for having, as we hope that people listen to this and take things away they can use in their own career. But I mean, having the guts to step up and tell a client you're missing something really big.
And having a client who's great enough and smart enough to create something amazing like that is probably the special thing.
Wow. Okay, fair enough. What is it that you talked about in the stories behind people, but are there things beyond that somehow allow you to attract female consumers to the Olympic brand? I mean, because correct me if I'm wrong. Let me think of this as a major sporting event. Is there any other major sporting event, World Cup, NBA, NFL, that attracts more women than men to the audience?
No, we're unique that way. And one thing that I would say, I don't think it's any one thing that counts for that, but one thing that works very well for us is the NBC broadcast here in the United States. And I give them enormous credit. It was really, pioneered and led by Dick Ebersol, who created so many of America's memories through how they filmed and how they told the stories and how they brought the sports to life. But one thing that happened, and it is uniquely Olympic, is the Olympics are one of the few remaining times that bring the family together. We hear so many stories, we have so much research, and we know it from our own experiences where it's the family's time to get together and watch the Olympics together. For the parents' time to maybe teach them something about Olympic spirit or Olympic sport, to maybe share a piece of history. Whenever you talk to American, there is a moment in time, an Olympian, a Paralympian, a moment that meant something to them. For the most part, I think for the newer generation, it was the Miracle on Ice moment at Lake Placid, where the underdogs that were that amateur team came together and beat Russia, who had been our Olympic hockey foe for years, and was it was just the idea of the underdog coming behind, and it really came at a time when our country needed the spirit. But for grandparents, being able to sit in front of the TV and maybe share a story with a grandchild about who Jesse Owens is very unique. And we still hear those today. So I think it is the broadcast does something unique to families. And I think that is, I don't want to say it's only appealing to women, but I do think that it is deeply appealing to women and moms and dads to bring the family together.
You're right. I was just
and that's not something you see at the NFL.
No, you're right. You're right. Everybody goes their own way. Oh, okay, I'm going to go shopping now. Okay, we're fine. Thank you. Goodbye.
And it's not that people don't. The NFL is huge,
right?
Huge viewership, amazing viewership, but it's just not that same. It's not the same thing that you see in the Olympics, and those 17 days in a row that really occupy our consciousness.
Now you sparked to me a question spinning from that. Okay, so you have a tremendous background. You succeeded in a lot of different areas, and I guess categories, you call it industries. How long did it take you, or what caused you to understand that essence of the U.S. Olympic, I guess, brand? I mean, when did you? Oh, this is what it is. You just explained it to me. How long did it take you to understand, or what did you see, or what?
Well, I think you have to be a good observer and a listener. And while I've had the privilege of working with some of, I think, the greatest brands in the world. Not only at P&G, where it's a consumer product, and arguably that's an easier brand to manage, but in the B2B space with IBM, in the sports space with NFL, which is an incredible brand. And the first thing you learn is while you can learn lessons from all of your experiences, every problem is unique to solve. You just can't take one and say, well, this is what I did at so-and-so, so I'm going to apply those. I'm going to do the exact same thing here. So you kind of have to come in and listen and observe and see what's there to create that, to spark that insight. And with our brand, what was really fascinating to me as a dynamic is how much the world was attentive and completely focused on the Olympic rings. The Olympic rings are a profoundly powerful brand and an icon for the mission of the games, which is to achieve peace through sport. So they're profoundly iconic. And they are powerful, positive, immense, but they're not our brand at the U.S. Olympic Committee. They're the IOC, the International Olympic Committee's brand. And what I saw was an opportunity to grow another brand, one that was parallel but very different, and that was the Team USA brand. And what I knew from the NFL is how much affinity there was for teams. What I came and saw when I came to the USSC and did some research is how strong that feeling of pride is when our nation's best represent themselves well on the world stage. I saw that there was a way to appeal to kids, teenagers and kids, not through the lens of a global brand, but through something that they could uniquely own, which is their Team USA. So that was kind of when I started to get a sense of like where the brand direction was going to go, which is not just one brand, but two really strong ones, and then three, because the Olympic team brand is one brand, and what I wanted to do is really put on an equal footing the Paralympic team. So a lot of what we've been engaged in over the last 4 years is building awareness and understanding of the Paralympic movement and the Paralympic team, culminating in this Games being a Games where we live broadcast, taped, and also live streamed over 200 hours of Paralympic sport. And we had enormously positive response from Americans and from our sponsors for the first really broad-scale Paralympic broadcast.
Now, back in the old days, when you and I were younger and fresher, we call that creating a flanker. Is that what that would be?
Yeah, I can't believe you remember that. I think it's funny, a flanker brand. The flanker says you're at war somehow. Isn't that right, Cheryl? You're at war.
Yes.
I don't quite think of it in those terms. I think of it as develop your portfolio of brands and use your brands choicefully when the best time is to use them. So there are times when we lead with the U.S. Olympic team mark. There are times when we are happy to be sheltered under the global rings. There are times when we want to use both marks together, the Olympic team and Paralympic team mark. So it's really managing the portfolio, and it can be, a very, kind of a very sophisticated exercise of what brand do you lead with, why, and why do you make that decision. But across all of our digital media, for instance, we always lead with Team USA. We don't lead with the Olympic or the Paralympic because Team USA is all of us.
Wow. Your time there, I think you've been there since 2009, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So your time there is kind of paralleled, I would call, the real growth of social media. I mean,
yes.
Right? Okay. And so has that posed any difficulties for you? Because it's like this media is being created, or literally growing up like weeds around you as you're branding and managing a portfolio, and how do you lead with the, there's a lot of stuff you're doing. Has that been difficult, or is that just simply part of the landscape now?
No. I mean, it's opportunity knocks with social media. I think it has to change how you market to people and how you dialogue with people. So it becomes less marketing to people and more about dialoguing with people and creating the right tools for them to engage with. But it also becomes about, the challenge becomes like you can spend an enormous amount of resources, endless resources, trying to conquer social media. So you have to figure out, in a world of limited resources where we are, because we're not-for-profit, where are we going to best spend our money to grow that audience, and how are we going to monetize that audience? So between the time I joined, where we had no literally zero social media audience, we've now grown to total across our big social media touch points like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. We're now at 5.7 million.
Wow.
Which puts us right squarely, on par with entities like the NHL. So we went from 0 to over 5.7, and we're really pleased with that because it's not only the size, it's how people engage with us. And making people evangelists for the Olympic movement is our end goal.
Now, see, here's what you've done. Now you've forced me off the reservation even further. So let's do a little kind of the behind the curtain stuff. So has that required you to staff up a social media group? Because because for that many people, that's a lot of engagement.
Well, you know what? We've got to be careful about it. We're not for profit, so the
Mm-hmm.
amount that we spend on our marketing the movement
Yeah.
is, we're pretty parsimonious about it because we
Yeah.
want to spend most of our money, over 82% of it, going to national governing bodies, sport programs, and directly to athletes. That's where we
Okay.
choose to be
Okay.
best in class.
Okay.
But the amount of money we're spending in social media is paying dividends through the audience growth and through the ability for us to make an advertising business out of it. So we've really gotten serious about that, and we are very pleased with the results from our now full-fledged media opportunity. The way we accomplish it is we have some internal people. We hired some dedicated social media people because you need the people who have their foot on the brake to be employees of the company. But we use freelancers, production freelancers, writers all the time that aren't employees. And part of that is we have big peaks and valleys given the Olympic Games occur every 2 years.
Now, your peaks and valley comment kind of led me to this question. How do you all keep women, I'm just meaning in particular, women engaged between Olympics? You're right, 2 years and you spike, but what's happening between
Well, that's
there?
our biggest challenge, and our biggest objective is how do we spread the value between the games times. So I'll give you a great example. So the Olympic Games was pretty much, I would say, coming into, Athens, Vancouver, there. The Olympic Games is what we focused all of our attention, all of our marketing on. Then we said we've got to spread it out. Well, we're not going to get to be a 365-day-a-year brand, but we can start to grow a bell curve around the Olympic Games. So our big focus area is put more effort and market into marketing the Paralympic Games, which occurs 1 week, about 10 days after the Olympic Games. But it's a way to extend interest. So this year we collaborated with NBC on the Paralympic broadcast. We worked with our sponsors to showcase Paralympic athletes as well as Olympic athletes in all of their advertising. And now, next week, we're adding one more event to our season, which is our inaugural award ceremony, which will be taped in Washington, D.C. next week on April 2nd in conjunction with the team visit to the White House. So that's a way to bring an event.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, we created a big marketing program celebrating 100 days of the Games, and we're investing a lot of money in Olympic trials, which are really showing promise and potential as a major marketing platform for our athletes and our sponsors.
Wow, you're right, because you're right. Most people wake up, okay, the Olympics are here, and they wake up, and there it is. And now you're creating these
We're
events,
building that bell curve,
trials.
right?
Yeah. That's a very, okay, I'm going to ask you, because, I've always known you as a smart woman. Help me with this. You can say yes if you want. Maybe it's true. Did you create the notion of a bell curve around it? Was that your term? I mean, it's like unbelievable.
Yes.
That's great.
Bell curve around the game. Bell curve, because it doesn't make sense for us to be 365, but there's so much going on that if we can create, all of a sudden, how do you get people engaged with who's going to make the team? I mean, at the swimming trials in Omaha in front of London, which they happened before the Games, but the swimming trials, people were engaged in the whole Michael Phelps-Ryan Lochte rivalry well before the Games ever came. The first time that people saw and met Missy Franklin, who promises to be one of our biggest swimming stars ever, was at the 100-Day Out event we created, which happened in Times Square in front of London Games. So it is working over time. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's working over time, and it's a way for America to follow who qualifies, who makes the team, and get to know them before they just appear on their screen in London or as Michaela Schifrin did, who popped on the screen in Sochi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she really blew up. How do you? You're already telling me how you do it. You're creating these events, and the bell curve around. You're spreading out, not 365, but certainly expanding kind of the touch points. How do you? You did it with Procter & Gamble. How do you identify opportunities for your clients to grow? I know your task is sales and marketing. So how do you? So you go back out. You're thinking about you got Olympics in 2 years. How do you create opportunities for your clients to grow or to improve or expand their business with your female consumers going forward?
Well, I think one of the areas we've done a good job on the B2C area, and particularly we focused on retail packaged goods programs, and we drew in companies like Kellogg's, Smucker's, Chobani, as we developed a broad program at retail and packaged goods. The next frontier for us, and we're going to really be tackling this in Rio, is B2B companies. People don't ordinarily think of the Olympics as a platform for companies who are trying to reach businesses, but we're enormously productive if that is going to be your chosen strategy. So we are looking at our B2B story, and that's going to be a major focus for us going into Rio, and that's where we'll hopefully create some new and different assets that will lure in more companies like we have with Deloitte, USG, who really target the business customer. And we need to go beyond just the simple hospitality programs. You can get that without a relationship with the OTC.
Wow. All right. Now, you've succeeded quite a bit. As I said, I spoke of your successes in leading into today's feature, but I do believe that tripping and falling occasionally can teach us a lot. So what has business failure? And I just define that as something, a goal not achieved, a lack of acceptance of a product or an offering. What has that taught you, and what has it allowed you to do now?
Well, I think, your best lessons are from the things that you fail at, right? Mm-hmm. It's a hard question, and, I read it before this. You were gracious to give me it's a hard one because you just learn from your failures. Yes, there's the obvious, well, I'm not going to make that mistake before, invest a lot of money in a piece of advertising or a new product launch that you don't firmly believe, has, risk. You learn things like risk management. You learn things like how important it is to build talent, manage talent. You learn, and you learn those not only just from your successes, but failures, people you've lost, right, that you didn't want to lose. And those are the kinds of things that you take forward. And I think, the more that you can tune in to how the failure happened, like what led to it, and learn from it, the better off you're going to be. So I'd probably say, it's that's refined my approach to risk management, talent acquisition and retention, where to focus in terms of new revenue streams, where, when mistakes happen, how do you ease the recovery from them so they are not a burden on the organization. I think that sounds philosophical, but that's probably, rather than one instance, right, because there's been many instances, those are kind of some of the things principles and that you take forward.
Leadership, huh?
Yeah, leadership.
Yeah, there you go. Well, what do you read that educates you? You a lot of time on planes and I guess in hotel rooms. Do you have a chance to open up a book or something else and read it?
It's a great question. I'm an avid news reader, so I read the news a lot, and that's important. And I do that. I catch up on reading. What I find the plane time is, it gives me my best time I do a lot of my talent management, the things that I like to do. Being a remote virtual manager, because half my team's in Colorado and half's here, I have to rely on my communication skills, not only phone skills and verbal skills, but written skills a lot to manage people. One of my favorite things to do, and you'd have to ask my team whether they think it's effective, is I write them long emails and manifestos, and I usually do that on the plane when I have the time and attention to really do it well, to edit it where it needs to. And they can be on a range of topics. They can be thank you notes to my team. They can be things that we're looking at. They can be communication about the strategic direction we're going. But I invest a lot of time in writing to my team because we're dispersed and virtual. So that's probably work-wise what I do on planes the most. And I always have dessert on planes. It's my one thing that I allow myself. Whether it's the cookie or the full ice cream sundae, I'm going to have it on the planes.
Well, if you don't treat yourself, who will?
That you got to treat yourself on the planes. And as a very loyal United customer, our sponsor over 30 years, let me tell you, United Ice Cream Sundaes are the best.
They are the best. Okay. You know what's great about it? It's almost hard to fly so much that having that treat on the plane causes weight issues, right? You'd have to fly an awful lot for that to be a real problem.
I fly an awful lot, but I also try and work out. So
there you go.
I'll heed to the diet when I'm not in the air.
I got you. What is this is the final question. I know you as a big thinker and a kind of voracious, focused person. What is your big D dream for the U.S. Olympic brand?
I'd really like to see Team USA as a brand, a protected brand, really emerge as a top sports brand. That's my dream.
Wow. Team USA as a top sport. And
Team USA.
And how would that? Okay, tell me how will I know if that happens? What will
you know
happen?
what? You'll know it when you see it. If you start to look around and ask people, like, there's something consciously. One of the strategies that we're using to build the Team USA brand is a whole product emphasis around licensed product. And we do it across many channels, the U.S. Olympic with Ralph Lauren, Nike, and our private label partner, Outer Stuff. But a lot of that, well, some of it has the U.S. Olympic team mark. Some of it doesn't even have the Olympic mark on it. It's just about the Team USA mark. And when people willingly go into a store, whether it's Kohl's or Macy's or Dick's Sporting Goods, and buy something that says Team USA, that has the feeling of passion and pride that you have in America, and the feeling of like excitement about young Team USA stars, that's a real mark of a sports brand that's made it. But that's only the other one, and is our digital platform. Team USA is a mark that we lead in our digital platform. Last year, our Twitter site was named one of the top 100 Twitter sites to follow by Sports Illustrated, by a magazine and an editorial group that we admire very much. And, there were a lot of leagues and a lot of broadcasters that didn't make that list, but Team USA did. So it's looking for those marks where people are starting to treat Team USA as a brand. And before we came in and started this strategy together, Team USA was just something maybe you heard on a broadcast. Well, there's Team USA, just scored another goal. Now we're really investing in it, building it as a protected brand, and that I hope will pay dividends for the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic movement for decades to come.
My goodness, big dream, love it.
That's my big D dream.
Wow. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for your time. You've almost stunned me. You remain a winner, and I really mean that. And I want to thank you so much for your time. And that Austin, Texas, is home to lots of emerging Olympians and current Olympians too. They're all over the place in there. So the next time you visit, because I know you have to visit, let's have ribs. All right?
Oh, you got me there. Absolutely. I'd love to come down there. All righty.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for this opportunity, Daryl. Best
no problem,
of luck.
Lisa. I loved what Lisa had to say. She is focused, invigorating. She's a big thinker. She's a team builder. She's a collaborator. She's an idea generator. She forces you to be better. And I think that if you listen to her speaking about, in a sense, marketing a brand and then making it bigger and then creating flankers or increasing the portfolio, building a portfolio of brands. There's so many applications to all of our businesses. And I hope you took a lot from her words today. She was fantastic. Fantastic stuff. I'm keeping an eye on the Olympic team and watch her manage that brand. I hope her insights, obviously, have left you more alert to the opportunities in your own business. I'm sure that they have. As a thank you for joining me today on Female Economics, Why Women Buy, JanetTV.com and I want to give you a free ebook that I've created called 50 Ways to Elevate Your Marketing to Women. It's full of tips that will help your brand maximize its connection to female consumers, which will lead to more sales, more profits, and greater market share. And that's always good. Just go to JanetTV.com/50 ways and you can download it immediately. That's janettv.com/5, 0, and the word ways, WAYS. This has been Daryl Mobley for janettv.com's Female Economics, Why Women Buy podcast. Enjoy life.